All right, looks like we're live. And let's just check our settings here for a couple seconds before we go live on the other channel as well. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Adobe Creative Cloud channel. My name is Terry White, Worldwide Design and Photography Evangelist for Adobe. It's my pleasure to be streaming to you live here today, talking about Creative Cloud libraries, maximizing your productivity with artboards and libraries, and a couple tips and tricks along the way. Just let me get my comment section up here so I can see everyone coming into the room here. And hello, Victoria. And hello, no one I know. And hello, MK Events and EJ. Hello, everybody. Welcome. So once again, in case you missed the beginning, I'm not sure at what point the stream kicked in as I was talking, but welcome. My name is Terry White, Worldwide Design and Photography Evangelist for Adobe. It's my pleasure to be streaming to you live here on the Adobe channel. So welcome, everyone. We're going to get started in about 2 seconds here. Just want to make sure the stream is working for everybody. And as we get started, we'll talk about today's topic, which is how to maximize your productivity with Creative Cloud libraries and artboards. So why don't I go ahead and jump in? Let me go ahead and switch to my computer. And now that I'm on my computer, I'm in Adobe Illustrator at the moment. I'm going to be doing the bulk of this in Photoshop. But since I said this was going to cover Photoshop and Illustrator, I'll start with Illustrator. Now, for those of you who are new to Photoshop or Illustrator, or both programs have a feature called Artboards. So you can use it in either program. It doesn't really matter which one you're using it in because the feature is pretty much the same. What artboards allow you to do is what we would traditionally have done in the past before artboards is if you were doing a layout, and the most common example that people can understand is, for example, let's say you had to lay out a letterhead, business card, and envelope for someone. Well, typically in the past, years ago, that might have been 3 separate documents, whether you're doing it in Illustrator or Photoshop. Well, now things like that no longer require you to do 3 separate documents. You could do it all in one document by using 3 artboards. So this is really useful for people that need to lay out, especially now in the age of designing for multiple screens, whether if you want to lay out a concept and have it appear on the different size screens that it would appear on, and that way you can show it all as one design, as opposed to having to flip people through multiple documents to show it. So for example, here in Illustrator, and hello everyone that I didn't get a chance to say hello to in the chat. I see you there. I see a bunch of people jumping in. But let me go ahead and click New. And when I click New in Illustrator, and again, it would be the same in Photoshop. For example, let's say I want a new print design. And let's say I just want to go ahead and make one letter size. You'll notice here on the right-hand side that I have the ability to tell it how many artboards. And by default, you'll just get 1. If you don't ask for artboards, you don't have to use them. You'll just get 1 artboard for the work that you're working on. So for example, if I do say that, let's say I want 3 artboards, and I want to measure this because I'm just more comfortable in inches. I want 3 artboards. Right now, it's just going to default them to all be 8.5 by 11. So when I click Create, it's the same size. So for example, I can click on the Artboard tool. Both Photoshop and Illustrator have an Artboard tool. Once you click that tool, then you're manipulating the artboards themselves. So for example, if I click on that artboard and I just want to arbitrarily size it to a different size, I can make that one a different size. If I click on this artboard and I don't want to arbitrarily make it a different size, I just want to make it a specific size, you notice that we have presets, or you can type in the dimensions. So for example, if I were going to design, then it would give me that size. So it's nice having those preset sizes built in, but like I said, if you don't want to use one of those or the one you want isn't there, then all you'd have to do is go up to the control panel and type in whatever size you want, and that would give you the specific size that you're looking for. Now at this point, you can rearrange these artboards any way you want, and you can then go in and start designing on those artboards. So they're like, and I hate to use the phrase, but it's like having multiple pages in Illustrator. And I gave in after Illustrator was rewritten, so the performance would be good enough to give you multiple artboards, which is not exactly multiple pages, but it works pretty much the same. All right, so now that you see the concept, and of course on each one of these you can design whatever you want. So if I want that rectangle on that artboard, then that rectangle only exists on that artboard. If I want to come over here and get an ellipse and make an ellipse for that artboard, then that's totally separate. So the two don't have to have anything to do with each other. And that's great, because then you can have different designs for different things on different artboards. But I'm going to take a guess that in most cases that when people are using envelope and a business card, then chances are the logo is going to be the same on all three. The address and phone number are going to be the same on all three. So chances are you don't want to have everything be different on all the artboards. That's where the CC Libraries tip is going to come in handy. So I'm going to switch gears. This is Illustrator, like I said, and Photoshop pretty much works the exact same way. But Photoshop is going to give us a couple of more advantages for the output side that Illustrator doesn't have. So that's why I'm going to do the rest of the work inside Photoshop. All right, so let's go back. Let's pop over to Photoshop. So I have no document open in Photoshop. And if you were to create a new document in Photoshop, you can create a new one, just like we did in Illustrator. And you can check the box for artboards, and then you'd be working in artboards inside Photoshop. So it's the exact same concept. And you have an artboard tool as well inside of Photoshop. It's normally buried under the Move tool. I have mine separated because I customize my tool panel. So you can do it either way. All right, so now let's go ahead and go to the File menu, and I'm going to open up a recent document that is a set of artboards. And this may look familiar. This is the template that I use for the advertisements for my live streams. Now, originally, Rufus, who many of you may know, works for Adobe, my colleague did this layout inside of Illustrator using artboards. And that works fine, but the thing that was driving me crazy is if I do this in Illustrator, and then I want to output these, I've got to manually go and run a command and output them all separately and so forth and so on. Also, when he originally created this, and he created these as all individual artboards, and even though some of the stuff was duplicated, or actually they were all duplicated except for the URLs, the content was just, 4 text frames, for example, of the subject that were the same, 4 text frames of the date and time that were the same. And so every time I'd want to make a change, I'd have to go in and click into each one and type in the date and time and then go in the next one and copy and paste it in or type it in again. And inevitably, as you can start to see even in this design, you may forget something if you have to do something 4 times. If you have to do something over and over and over again manually, that just increases the chances of mistakes. So for example, even in this layout, I can see a mistake right off the bat, and that is, for example, this one shows in the upper right-hand corner, shows the Photoshop logo. In the lower left-hand corner, for some reason, that layout, it's missing. And it's just, I don't know if it never was there, it got turned off at some point, got removed at some point, I don't know. And that's the problem with doing everything manually, is that you run that risk of it being a typo, or something not getting updated, or something getting removed without affecting the rest, and so forth and so on. So that's why this next tip is probably the most valuable tip when you're going to work with artboards, and that is to work with CC Libraries in addition to artboards. So for example, I've got my CC Library panel open here. And if you're looking for yours, just go under your window menu and you should be able to find, it'll either be called Libraries or CC Libraries. Each app sometimes calls it differently. But anyway, in Photoshop it's called Libraries, and that will open up your Libraries panel. Now in this particular library, this is not the one I want. I want one that I've been using called, Let's see if I can find it here. Live streaming, okay. Because this has got the stuff that I use over and over and over again in my other documents. So like I said, I opened up this Photoshop document because I have one for each product. I can do it all in one, but I just separated the documents out by product. So there's one for Photoshop, when I do a Photoshop stream. There's one for Illustrator. There's one for Creative Cloud, so forth and so on. So I'm in the Photoshop one now. And I have not automated this one, so I saved this one to do it in front of you. So for example, let's go in and let's look at the artboards here. We have 4 artboards, and on the layers panel in Photoshop, the artboards show up as layer groups. So there's a layer group for the first one in the upper left corner, one for the second one in the top right corner, lower left corner, and lower right corner. So those are the 4 layer groups for the 4 artboards we're working with. So for example, let's say that I want to change the text in the top left group. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, for all the other groups, I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to go ahead and throw away the layer that has that text on it for every other group. Just throw that layer away because I'm not going to use it anymore. So same thing here. It was just a layer called Photoshop CC. Going to throw it away for each layer group because I'm going to do it differently from here on out. I'm going to go in, and here's the last one. I think this one's got a bunch of empty layers. Yeah, see, that's what that can sometimes happen too. So sometimes I need to do a little artboard maintenance here. Let's get rid of some of these empty layers. All right, so I got that all cleaned out now, and I got the text missing from all 3. And instead of taking the first one and changing it just yet, let's go to it. And there it is. It's called Photoshop, and I can turn it on and off to make sure that's the right one. I'm going to go ahead and add that text to the library so that I have it to automate from here on out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just drag that text into this library. It will add it in. And right now that text is called Photoshop CC, and I'm going to just rename it. Let's rename it. That way I'll know which one's which. I'm going to just rename it PS for Photoshop Topic, because that's what it really is. It's the topic, my Photoshop topic. Now I can throw away that layer too. So I can get rid of that layer. All right, so I copied it to the library, threw away the layer on all the other artboards, so now I can start fresh. And what I mean by starting fresh is I can now drag this back onto this particular artboard and put it in place. It should be perfect because it's the same exact one that was there before, so it should be the right size. And then I can go to the next artboard. Let's go ahead and commit that one. Go to the next artboard, do the exact same thing. And this is a one-time thing. I only have to drag this out once for each artboard. So we'll drag this one in. Oh, hang on, still had the wrong one. Select it. Let's tell it where we want it. There we go. I just have to select any layer in our artboard so it knows I'm trying to drag into that artboard. There we go. And we'll put that one there. And of course, I can get them all aligned and be exactly the same if they're the same size artboard, which those first 2 are. And then we'll go to the third artboard. Same thing, host it by, and we'll go ahead and drag the top again. Now I'm going to need to scale the topic on this one because obviously this third artboard is really small. So let's go ahead and just get it in there, get it where it needs to line up, and then we'll go ahead and scale it down. Just hold down the Shift key and scale that down, and then move it up a little bit where it needs to be. Okay, perfect. And then last but not least, we'll go to the fourth artboard, and we'll drag in the same topic. We need to just select any layer in that artboard first and drag in the same topic. All right, and if that one can actually be a little bit bigger, because this artboard's a little bigger. Okay, we're set. We've got the replicated linked text in all 4 artboards. So that means that now if I want to make a change to all 4 artboards at the same time, I'm set up to do it now. All I have to do is double click on the text in the library, which will open it up. And since all the other artboards are linked to it, whatever changes I make to it will be made across the board. And hello, Italy. How's it going? Sorry, let's double click. Now here's the problem. Obviously that text is white, and since the only thing on that artboard is the white text, or I'm sorry, that image is the white text, I can't really see it really to make the change. So I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to add another layer, put that layer below, and just fill that layer with anything, just a color so I can see it. Now we're not going to keep that layer on, but we're going to go ahead and use it for now. So now I can go ahead and type in whatever tomorrow's topic is going to be for my live stream. And let's do portrait, retouching in Adobe Photoshop and Lightroom. All right, so that's my topic. My topic's all set now. And now I can turn off that background layer. I don't need it. I just needed it to be able to see what I was doing. So now when I close this and save it, it will update the library and update all 4 artboards, or all 50 artboards, or all 1,000 artboards. How many artboards you have in your document would now be updated based on just making that one change. So now anytime I want to make a change to the topic, double click on that text, turn on that background long enough to be able to see what I'm doing, make my change, turn off the background, save it, and close it. All 4 artboards are updated and with their respective size and any effects and anything I've done to them. So the same thing would apply for the Hosted by Terry White. That's the same, but the date and time would change, of course, every time. And so instead of me having to go do that one by one 4 times, I would just put one in the library, which I already have one for InDesign, and I already have one for CC, so I just need one for Photoshop. Let's go do that. And we'll go to the Photoshop artboard, we'll grab the Hosted by text, and we'll drag that into the library. And we'll rename it so we know which one it is. Photoshop, I think I called it date and time. Yep, date time. All right, so now I can get rid of them all. I don't need them anymore. So we can get rid of this Hosted by in this artboard. We can get rid of this Hosted by in this artboard. We can get rid of this Hosted by in the next artboard. And we get rid of the Hosted by in the last artboard. And of course, the procedure is going to be the same for any text that needs to be able to be updated regularly. Okay, so now we go back to the first artboard where I have my topic, and we'll go ahead and bring in the Photoshop date and time. Comes in nicely, of course, because it's the same date and time. And then we'll go ahead and commit to that. Do the same thing here, drag it in again. And there we go. Put that one where we want it. Line it up, good. And third artboard, grab the date and time from Photoshop. And this one needs to be scaled down, obviously, because it's too big. Scale that down. And move it down. And lock it in. And then we go to our last artboard and do the exact same thing. We'll grab our date and time. And that one can be a little bigger. And now all we need to do is change the date and time for one of them, or the one in the library, and it will update all 4. So we'll go back and do the same thing we did before. We need that extra layer so we can see what we're doing. And so the name doesn't change, but the date and time does. So this is going to happen on Friday. And the date's going to be March the 3rd. And same time, same channel, so we can go ahead and close that now. Turn off that layer that was the background, and now all my dates are updated as well. So you get the idea. You would just do that for every element of text that could be different. Now, this could have all been one text frame. It didn't have to be two separate text frames. It could have been one. But I just went with the way it was already created. The only other tip I would give you is notice the logos are different, because one time on YouTube I did it for these 3 apps, and then for Facebook I did it just for Photoshop, even though that one doesn't have a Photoshop. Now the logos are, or the application logos are individual images from a library. So I can easily pull those in, turn those on and off as needed, but then I'm having to do it 4 times once again. So rather than do it 4 times, maybe the tip would be to make a logo banner. In other words, make a logo document that would have all the logos you'd ever use, or add them as needed, and then place that 4 times. Then you only update that logo Photoshop file with the ones you need, and then it updates all 4. So that would just be a matter of creating a new document that's going to basically be just for the logos with no background, and then you'd be able to use it from that point on. So for example, if I wanted to do one for Photoshop and Lightroom real quick, I can just do new document. I have no idea what the size should be. I'm just going to take a guess at it. Let's say the size is going to be, I don't know, 300 pixels wide by, I can always make it bigger if I need to. Let's say 100 pixels tall. Or actually, let's make it a little bit wider. Let's make it 400, and let's make it by 200. I can always change it if I need to. And we'll say that it's going to go on a transparent background. There we go. And we'll click Create. All right, that'll give me my empty document. And once I have my empty document, then I can just go ahead. Oh, my hard drive's full. Oh, no. All right, hang on. Let's empty trash real quick. Hate those scratch disk full messages. Oh, my hard drive's really full. Okay, let's empty trash. Let's see if that'll clean it up. Yes, I want to get rid of it all. All right, hang on a second. You just hate when you have to do hard drive maintenance in front of an audience. All right, that should do it. Let's see if this will do it. Looks like I got plenty of space. All right, it's not going to let me. But anyway, clear up the space, create that document. I just heard it empty that time. Let's see if we can do it one more time. Put the logos on it, then put those logos, that logo document, in a library, place it on all 4 artboards, and away you go. All right, last but not least, let's talk about the output. And again, the reason I said I'd use Photoshop over Illustrator for this last piece. And that is because Photoshop has a feature called Generator. And when you go to the File menu and you generate image assets, what that lets you do, now this is off by default, so you turn it on for each document. When you turn on image assets, then in your layers panel, you'll notice that I've got each artboard layered and named whatever I want to call it, but with a file extension like .jpeg, .png, .gif, .tif, whatever, however you want the output to happen. Well, TIFF wouldn't really be a case, but ping, JPEG, GIF, however you want your output to happen, because I don't want to have to export these out manually one by one every time I use them. So by turning that on and renaming these layers, anytime I make a change to anything on the artboard, it updates the file on the hard drive. So if I go out to the hard drive here, and I go to Photoshop, the last update was 5 minutes ago. I guess that's the last change I made. And I can see that this one's already set. It's got the text, it's got the right date and time, it's got the wrong logo, but it's got the right date and time. So for example, if I go to that one now, and I turn off, let's say we turn off the, let's see, is that the one with, yeah, let's say we turn off Photoshop Mix and Fix, and we just leave it on Lightroom. So just because I made those two changes, or any change to that artboard, that causes Generator to generate a new file. So now if we go back out, I can see that this one was updated just now, 425, and if I look at it, it's just got the Lightroom logo. So any change I make to any artboard will automatically output a ping file so I can use it on social media. That's why I like doing this in Photoshop. No offense to Illustrator. Illustrator is awesome, but Illustrator doesn't have the generate feature. So now all I have to do is just get the logos all set up in a file that I can place on each artboard, update that file, and away I go. And I'm just not going to take the time to quit Photoshop and relaunch it now in front of you to do that, but that's all it would take. And away we go. So any change I make, any logos I add, so for example, let's add one more. And we got like 2 minutes left in this stream. Let's go ahead and go, you know what, we can just duplicate it from that other artboard. It's already up there. And we'll just go ahead and the Photoshop logo. Okay, that's the Photoshop logo. And we'll just go ahead and drag it down, duplicate it. There it is. And because it's in that artboard, we'll go ahead and scale it up a little bit and put it in place. And so now that that one is there, because I made a change to the artboard that it's on, go back out to the operating system, and it's already made that change, adding the Photoshop logo. So I never, ever have to export them out again. How do you set up the generate feature? All you do, Jeanette, is simply two things. Generate is off by default for every document because it doesn't make sense to have it on if you're not using it. So 2 steps. Number 1, go up to File, choose Generate, and Image Assets is there, it's just unchecked. So just choose it and it will then be checked. So that means you're running Generator. Now, for any layer that you name with a dot file extension on the end of it, so .jpeg, .ping, .gif, whatever, it will generate an image for it. So I just did it for the groups. I don't need it for every individual layer. I only need it for the whole artboard. So these are all ending in, hang on, let me zoom out and show you again. These are all ending in .png24 because I want the high quality PNG. If I just named it .ping, it would give me the 8 quality versus 24. So you can do the same thing with JPEG. You can do .jpeg and specify a quality as well. You can even specify a size. So if I needed this output to a specific dimensions, let's say 800, or these are 1080p, so let's say, or one of them 720p. So let's say I wanted this one to be 1080p. I would just put in 1920 by the X sign, 1080, and then the name of the file, and then the file extension, and it would make one that size. So you can even put a comma in and name it twice if you need a JPEG and a PNG and one a certain size and so forth and so on. They actually increase the size of your layer names so that you can have all these different things that Generator can do. So now you can have a much longer layer name for that purpose. So that's it. That's automating your workflow using artboards, libraries, so you can automate the changing of the text, and last but not least, Generator, so you can even automate the images being exported every time you export it automatically every time you make a change. Just make a change, you got new images. Don't make a change, you don't have new images. So it didn't give me a new image for every artboard, it only gave me an image for the artboards that I changed. All right, let's see, I think I see a couple questions here. How do you organize your libraries? Renaming, deleting frequently? How do you archive documents using library objects? Well, libraries, just like anything else, it takes time to organize them in folders, just like you do with folders and everything else on your hard drive. So having libraries, I typically organize my libraries by, since I'm not really doing projects for clients, I organize them by what I need. So I have a live streaming library. I have a library for my users group. I have a library for Adobe Stock. I have a library for all the things I need. And then in the library itself, it's pretty much, there's not really much organization. It's just you could change the sort order. But as far as archiving a project that used libraries, well, you can, of course, in each application, package the document. So if I do a package, that will give me a folder of everything that this document uses, separate from the libraries. And if I don't need the library anymore, then I can just delete it. So it's totally up to you from that point. Stationary example. With Artboards. Okay, so Tim's asking a question. Is there a quick way to take older files, let's say one, stationary example, where you didn't have Artboards and make them into Artboards? I believe there isn't a, I don't know if there's a document to Artboards feature. Well, there is for Photoshop, actually. There is a document. No, I take that back. That's to libraries. So there isn't one for Artboards, but there is a layers to Artboard. You can convert layers into Artboards of an existing file. You just can't convert, let's say you had those 3 documents, the letterhead, business card, and stationery. You can't convert those into Artboards automatically. So you'd have to do a little bit of copy and paste or drag and drop once you got the Artboard set up. All right. Oh, was I doing pixels or inches instead of pixels? That might have been why it was too big. Crap, you're right. Sorry, my bad. Thanks for the tip. So that's why it wouldn't create that document. I was doing it way too big. I forgot I'd set that up, or clicked on one that was on set on inches. So thanks for catching that with your great eye. That's why I wouldn't create it. I was trying to create one that would have been bigger than my hard drive space available. So now I'd put the logos on there, save this to a library, and then drag it back in. Good catch. And who was that? Tanacho, if I'm saying that correctly, Dimitrov. So thank you for catching that I was on inches, not pixels. That's why I wouldn't create it. All right. I think that's it for the day. We're way over time, but thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Streaming here live on the Creative Cloud channel at least once a week. Also on the InDesign channel, I try to get there at least once a week. And tomorrow I'll be on the Creative Cloud YouTube channel as well. So with that, take care. Thanks for watching, and we will definitely catch you on the next one. Cheers, everybody.